Hey guys, Fire here from InDepth Gaming, bringing you another game review. This time we're checking out CounterAttack. CounterAttack is developed and published by Relative Software and released today on November 4th, 2022 for a price of $14.99. So what is CounterAttack? CounterAttack is a shmup, but it might be my favorite shmup on Xbox right now, and that's one of the reasons why it's getting a little longer review than some of the other shmups that we've done on the channel. So, right off the bat, this game features a single player that has a story. And then it also features online multiplayer, local multiplayer, and just tons of actual functional ways to play the game and pick your ships. So let's dive in just to a smidge here. So right off the bat, the game's got, it's ships. You can randomly get a ship, or you can select specific ships that all have a multitude of different stats ranging from, I think it's 8 different categories that you start off with, from a ship that's going to have better missiles to better drones and everything in between. And the way the game plays is, I'm not going to dive into the campaign, but there's a pretty extensive branching storyline, which you can kind of go around. And it's, like I said, it's got a little bit of a story, so it's pretty cool. But what I'm actually going to dive into right off the bat is going to be, and I'll just pick a random ship, is we're going to go in and talk about like the attachments, different ways you can do things. And then I'll probably just play like the survival mode so you could see some gameplay. But right off the bat, there's hundreds of modules, and I've played this game for a few hours now and barely even cracked a dent into the modules I've unlocked. See, only 2%, and there's over 500 different attachments you can get. You can pick 3 different in each category and then select which ones you want and then just simply go and deploy into the game. The game will have a couple options here. You'll have campaign or survival, as well as ways to do arcade mode, hardcore mode, and then adjust your game difficulty, all dependent on how you really want to play. For the sake of this, let's show off survival while I talk about the game. Survival, yeah, even has a couple options there as well, which is pretty cool. You have basic survival and wave survival. Classic survivals, you just last as long as you can, and you go as far as you can. Now, the part about this game that really sells me, outside of, if you're unfamiliar with shmups, it's basically just side-scrolling enemies that just constantly come at you and get overwhelmingly ridiculous the more and more you go. Now, when you're playing the game, your ship has a couple different things that you're going to see here on screen. Starting off with that row of words at the top, that's basically how you do your upgrades for your ship. There's going to be these little like growing green pickups that you can get, and basically if I choose to lock in an upgrade, every time you pick one of those pickups, it just goes to like the next tier line, and then you can lock in what your next upgrade would be. So if I want to get, let's say, missiles, I'm going to need to pick up a total of 5 of those pickups before I can even upgrade my missiles. And that's kind of just dependent on how this game works. Now, as well, you've got your little lives counter that you can see. Figured that's kind of obvious. Here's one of those green pickups. So now I can upgrade spread, for example. There's also the ability to use your little like special powers. So, for example, this ship has like a giant beam that I can shoot. And different ships have different things. Now, when you die, you kind of lose all your major unlock progresses. So you kind of start back over. But it's a game that doesn't feel like it's too harmful or too beat 'em up. I definitely feel that playing the game, there are some ships that I think are better than others. There's one that you can start with the drone that basically gives you a little ship that flies around you, and you already start off with basically a double spread of ships. So it definitely gives you a legged up advantage. And then as well as, some of them I think are weaker. Personally, the one we're using right now, I'd consider one of the weaker ones. But it kind of just depends like what special ability upgrades that you want. If you want to have, for example, this one, like a giant laser beam to fire and clear out enemies, or if you want different aesthetic effects in the game. That's all really up to your playstyle, and the game does a really good job of offering that. As well as, we're not even factoring in the module upgrades, different rates of fire, stats you can affect, and everything in between that really allows this game to shine and be a really fun and enjoyable shmup. The campaign's going to take you quite a bit, and most of the campaign levels are going to introduce you well over 1,000 enemies each, and they're not 100% easy. Some of them are actually pretty challenging, and they get very tricky to beat some of them. I've died on multitude of them, and even though I die, it still feels very rewarding to start back over and even just reset, and just everything that's in the game, just it constantly gives you something new. And even if you die, you're not going to be forced to go back into the same levels that you were doing before. It kind of has this little bit of RNG, it feels like. I don't know if that's true, but it feels like it, to whereas things aren't always the exact same, and you're going to constantly be introduced to just tons and tons of new enemies, so it's not like a feeling of, man, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Survival mode's a little different, but, you know, the bosses are very unique and quite enjoyable, and for me, that's been some of the best parts about this game, is just the amount of content that is just presented right off the bat is just phenomenal. I think just the sheer level of just everything here makes for just an amazing shmup. As far as, you know, difficulty and stuff, I think most people who are familiar with shmups won't have too much trouble. For those that do, you know, you'll just have to tinker with trying to find different upgrades and stuff, which seem to come randomly. So if you're wanting to try to unlock all 500 plus of those like modules, you're gonna have to spend quite a bit of time. So don't expect that to happen just overnight. You're gonna have to really grind and work your butt off to kind of get all those rewards. But, you know, generally, that's what shmups are. You play and grind and you just have fun. And this is a game that you can play, grind, and really have fun and enjoy. Unfortunately, we're going to die before we can fight this boss, but that's it kind of for that level. As far as an overall opinion of this game, you know, I'm sure by my enthusiastic voice you can tell I love this game. Visuals, this game is great. Controls and handling, it feels great. You don't have to do too much. It's just using your controls and navigating around. It's analog stick, holding a button and pushing a couple to do your various upgrades. I love the little added effect to some of the narration. You can hear a little bit of it now. Hopefully it's not too loud. You get some end-level stats. You get additional details. As you can see, we killed 1,000 enemies in that run. You can kind of see how all your scores break down. And then what's really cool is the game also, just beyond just having everything it has great, you have a little bit of customization with your ships. You have high score leaderboards. You can see how you're doing against you and your friends. As well as, you know, kudos to the developers for, honestly, a really good game. As far as my overall opinion of Buy, Sell, Pass, I'm sure you've already guessed by now. I'm definitely going to recommend you buy CounterAttack. It's a great shmup. The price point is $15, which is a little high up there for a shmup, but I think for everything you're getting here, it's well worth the price. Outside of that, if you have any questions, want to know more about the game, see a little bit of the gameplay of the campaign, we'll be uploading a video showing the first 5 or 10 minutes of that experience on the channel. Outside of that, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you have any questions, comment down below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you next time.